It was 11:51 p.m. I was in my apartment, exhausted after a 72-hour coding marathon. When my phone buzzed on the desk, it was the family group chat. A new message from my mother. Susan, I opened it. It was short. Robert and I have agreed you are no longer part of this family. Do not contact us. I stared at the words, the screen blurring, and then seconds later, the real blow landed. A small heart icon popped up next to her message. My sister, Morgan, had loved it. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why. Inga, this time, wasn't hot. It was cold. It was clinical. I put my phone face down on the desk, the screen dark. I opened my laptop. The glow of the login screen felt clean. I logged into my bank. It's funny, the things you automate in the name of family, you set them up once, and they just run until you stop them. My finger hovered over the mouse. First, the automatic payment labeled Robert and Susan and mortgage, a monthly transfer that kept a roof over their heads. I clicked the button, cancel automatic payment. A small box popped up. Are you sure? I was. Click. Second, the payment labeled Robert. Business loan. This was the big one. The $200,000 injection I'd given him 2 years ago to save his business from total collapse. He told his friends it was a government grant. I'd let him. I clicked cancel automatic payments. Third, Morgan, car loan. The $100,000 luxury car she'd gotten to celebrate her signing bonus. Another lie I'd helped fund. Click, cancel. I looked at the clock, 11:51 p.m. disowned. 12:03 a.m. I was free. I leaned back, and for the first time in years, I took a real breath. I tried to summon regret, to feel a pang of guilt. Nothing. There was only clarity. This wasn't a breakdown. It was a balance sheet. You see, for the last 5 years, I had been the silent investor in the family project my entire life. My father, Robert, had one obsession: prestige. He wanted a family that looked successful. That's why he adored Morgan. She was the perfect daughter, a lawyer at a top-tier firm. And me, I was the disappointment. My passion was coding, building worlds out of nothing. When I'd try to show him my first app, he'd wave his hand. That's nice. Amelia, but when are you going to stop playing those childish games and get a real job? The irony was, I had gotten that real job. I'd gone to law school. Just like Morgan, I joined a prestigious firm, just like they wanted. And I had Kit 6 months later, absolutely miserable. But I never told them. Instead, I'd used that 6 months of prestige as a cover. I'd quietly founded my own app development company. While they thought I was buried in legal briefs, I was building my empire line by line of code. And when my father's prestigious business was about to go under, it wasn't Morgan, the star partner, who saved him. It was me. The disappointment, the girl playing childish games. I'd funneled him $200,000. I told him it was a bonus from my law firm. He believed it because he wanted to, it fit his narrative. I wasn't just their daughter. I was their secret benefactor, their invisible safety net, and they had just cut me that $100,000 car that wasn't a signing bonus. That was my money. Morgan had been complaining that her old car didn't reflect her status at the firm. My parents were stressed because they couldn't afford to help her. So I transferred $100,000 to my father, who then loaned it to Morgan. Another lie to prop up the family image. I had been paying their mortgage for 24 straight months. I was the one who kept my father's business afloat. All of it, and they never even knew I had left the law firm. For the last 3 years, they thought I was a junior associate. Slowly climbing the ladder, they had no idea I was the CEO of my own tech company. that my childish games were now more successful than their prestigious careers combined, I had hidden it. I told myself it was to avoid confrontation. But the truth, I think I was just tired. It was easier to let them have their story. But as I sat there, looking at the canceled payments, I finally understood why they needed that story so badly. I had been reading about toxic family systems, about the roles they assign. They need a golden child, and they need a scapegoat. In our family, Morgan was the golden child. She was built to carry all of their hopes, all of their dreams for success and public glory. Her achievements were their achievements, and I was the scapegoat. I was built to carry everything else, the debt, the disappointment, the emotional labor, the blame. I was the one who was supposed to fail so they could feel generous. I was the one who was supposed to be less than so Morgan could shine brighter. Our entire family was a little play, staged for an audience of no one. And everyone had to stick to the script. My father's rage, my mother's disappointment. It wasn't just about my coding. It was that my secret success violated the rules of his entire worldview. A scapegoat cannot be successful. A scapegoat cannot be the one funding the golden child. My success didn't just make me a disappointment, it made him a failure. It proved his entire value system was a lie. That's why they had to cut me. It wasn't a choice, it was a system defense. The body rejecting an organ that no longer matched. I wasn't just leaving them, I was collapsing. Their whole reality. I didn't have to wait long. At 7 a.m. sharp, my phone rang. It was my father. Robert, I let it ring. He immediately called back. I let it ring again. Then came the text, Amelia, my supplier payment was just declined. What the hell did you do? Fix this. Now, I stared at the word fix for my entire life. That had been my job. I was the fixer, the one who quietly managed their tempers, their debts, their mistakes. I didn't reply at Nina, a message from Morgan, seriously, my car payment failed, you're gonna throw a tantrum over one text message. I didn't think you were this childish. Amelia, you're overreacting. They had disowned me. They had kicked me out of the family, and I was the one overreacting. But the final blow, the one that proved I'd done the right thing, came at 11 a.m. My mother, Susan, posted on Facebook. It was a smiling picture of her and Morgan clinking champagne glasses. The caption read, "So proud of my amazing daughter Morgan, who's taking us all to Hawaii to celebrate her big promotion. It's sad when some children just forget who raised them." It was all there. The public praise for the golden child, the vague shaming jab at the scapegoat, and the mention of a lavish trip, a trip I was almost certain was being funded by the money I was no longer sending. They weren't just ungrateful, they were completely oblivious. They weren't shocked by what they'd done. They were shocked. I'd finally stopped playing along. They thought this was a game. They thought I was a child throwing a tantrum, and that I'd come running back as soon as they applied enough pressure. I looked at the Facebook post, the smiling faces, the lie about the promotion. Okay, I whispered to the empty room, you want prestige. Let's talk about the real numbers. I looked at the text message from Morgan, childish. They thought I was being childish. They thought canceling the money that I earned, which they were living on, was overreacting. It was clear they didn't see me as an adult. They didn't even see me as a person. I was just a function, an ATM that had suddenly developed an attitude, a utility that had been shut off, and they were annoyed. They had to call the maintenance line. This wasn't a family dispute. This was a business negotiation gone bad. And they had no idea who they were negotiating with. I picked up my phone and dialed not my father, not my mother, Jasmine. I said, when she picked up, Jasmine was my friend. We had started at the law firm together. two bright-eyed associates ready to take on the world. She had stayed, I had left, but we remained close. She knew everything. Amelia, it's what? Noon. Aren't you usually asleep after a code sprint? I need a lawyer. Jasmine. The friendly tone in her voice vanished, replaced by the sharp, focused click of her professional self. What's wrong? Are you in trouble? No. I said, my voice flat. I'm not, but my father is. I explained everything, the 11:51 p.m. text, the heart from Morgan, the canceled payments, the angry calls, and the Facebook post. I laid it all out. Not as a betrayed daughter, but as a client stating the facts. I've been funding them for years. Jas, I have a $200,000 business loan to my father. I have a $100,000 car loan to my sister. I have 24 months of mortgage payments. I want it all back. There was a silence on the other end. Not of shock, but of calculation. You're not kidding. She said, this morning, my father accused me of fixing his supplier payment. My sister said I was being childish. They think this is a tantrum. I need to show them it's a default. Okay. Jasmine said, okay, I can do this. I'll draft a formal demand letter. We'll itemize every loan, every payment. We'll give them 30 days to propose a repayment plan. After that, we file. Thank you. Jasmine, don't thank me yet. She said, this is the easy part. Just, are you sure you're ready for this? They called my life's work childish games while they cashed my checks. I said, this isn't revenge. Jasmine, this is just accounting. 2 days passed. The silence was deafening. No more angry calls. No texts. I figured the Facebook post had said it all. I buried myself in the code for my app, trying to debug a new feature. Then my phone rang. It was Jasmine. Her name on the caller ID made my stomach clench. Hey, I answered, trying to sound casual. Amelia, stop what you're doing. I need you to listen to me very carefully. Her voice was different. It wasn't the voice of my friend or even the voice of my lawyer. It was the voice of someone delivering terrible news. What is it? I pulled all the original loan documents. The $200,000 business loan you co-signed for your father. Okay. And she said, taking a deep breath, he paid it off. Last year, I was completely confused. Paid it off. What are you talking about? He doesn't have that kind of money. That's why his supplier payment bounced. You're right. Jasmine said, he doesn't. He paid off the original $200,000 loan by opening a new $300,000 line of credit. I just stood there, the logic not computing, but I didn't co-sign a new one. No. Jasmine said, air voice dangerously quiet. You didn't. The bank thought you were such a good client. They extended him another $100,000 on top. Based on your assets, he just needed your signature. A cold dread, heavier than any anger, started to fill my veins. Jasmine, what are you saying? I'm looking at the signature on the extension document. Amelia, the one for the final $100,000, I've cross-referenced it with your driver's license and your passport. It's not yours. I sat down. The room felt like it was tilting. He forged your signature. Amelia, I couldn't speak forgery. It was such an adult word, a serious word, a word for criminals, not for fathers who called your dreams childish. It gets worse. Jasmine continued, her voice clinical now. He used that extra $100,000 to fund the down payment on Morgan's car, the one you also gave her money for. And that trip to Hawaii, that's where the rest of it went. He hadn't just taken my money. He hadn't just lied. He had stolen from me. He had committed a felony He had put my entire financial future at risk, all to keep up the appearance of the prestigious family, all to buy champagne for the golden child. Amelia Jasmine's voice cut through the static in my head. This changes everything. This isn't a family drama anymore. This isn't a civil suit over a bad loan. I finally found my voice. It was a whisper, but it was sharper than glass. What is it, Jasmine? It's criminal fraud. And we have him cold. I was in a flow state, sketching out a new UI element, when the intercom on my desk buzzed. It was Emily, my head of operations. Amelia, you have visitors. Your parents are here. They don't have an appointment, and they seem agitated. Let them in. Emily, but please have security stand by. The glass doors to my office hissed open. They looked smaller than I remembered. My father, Robert, wasn't the towering figure of my childhood. He was just a man in a rumpled suit, his face pale and sweaty. My mother, Susan, was barely recognizable. Her eyes were red and swollen, her hair a mess. The Facebook perfect facade had crumbled. Amelia Susan ran forward, her voice a desperate shriek. Amelia, you have to stop this. You have to call them off. I stood up, but I didn't move from behind my desk. It was my space, my fortress. Call who off? Susan, the bank, the police, she sobbed, clutching at the edge of my desk. They're taking everything. The house, Robert's business. They're talking about fraud. They're talking about jail. My father finally spoke, but his voice, which used to be a command, was now a thin, reedy plea. You'll tell them it was a misunderstanding. Amelia, you'll call the bank. You'll tell them you signed the papers. You'll fix this. There it was again. Fix this. Susan grabbed my arm. Please, Amelia, think of your sister. The trip to Hawaii, her career. This will destroy her. You have to do something. You have to. I looked at her hand on my sleeve. I looked at my father's desperate, commanding eyes. I felt nothing. The anger was gone. The hurt was gone. All that was left was the cold, clean finality of an equation that had been solved. You're right. I said, my voice was quiet, but it cut through her sobs instantly. She looked up, a flicker of desperate hope in her eyes. You'll fix it. No. I said, you're right that I had to do something. I reached into a folder on my desk and pulled out a single document. I held it out to them. My father took it, his hands shaking as he fumbled for his glasses. What is this? He stammered. Reading the header that I said is a copy of the criminal complaint I filed with the district attorney's office, the one detailing the wire fraud and the forgery. Susan's hand flew to her mouth. Robert just stared, his face turning a grayish white. Mother, I said, looking directly at her, you told me I had to do something. I already did. Goodbye. Robert, goodbye. Susan, I turned my back on them. I pressed the intercom button on my desk. Emily, please have security escort my visitors out of the building. I didn't watch them leave. I just listened to the sound of my mother's wail fading down the hall. I turned and looked out the window of my office, out over the city I had built my life in. For a long time, I believed that family was a debt you were born with, a bloodline obligation that you had to pay, no matter the cost to yourself. I thought that to be a good daughter. I had to erase myself to become the person they needed me to be. But standing there, in the silence of my own success, I finally understood the family you are born into is just the starting point. It's the soil, but it's your choice, what you grow. Sometimes to find yourself, you have to have the courage to let go of the bloodline You have to be willing to walk away from the people who were supposed to love you, but who only ever taught you how to survive them. True adulthood, true freedom, isn't about where you came from. It's about having the courage to choose your real family. The people who see you, who value you, who support the person you are, not the person they wish you were. My real family was my husband, Dylan. It was Jasmine, who had my back. It was Emily, waiting outside my door. This wasn't an act of destruction. It was an act of creation. I wasn't losing a family. I was finally claiming my own. 4 months passed. The world didn't end. It just recalibrated. The house was sold at auction to cover the fraudulent loan. Jasmine told me my father, Robert, was facing multiple felony charges. The prestige he had chased his entire life had finally been replaced by a criminal record. And me, my app, Phoenix Code, launched. It got a small feature on a tech blog, then another, and suddenly it was flying. My husband Dylan and I celebrated not with champagne, but by quietly buying the apartment we'd been renting. That night, I opened my laptop. I found the old meticulous spreadsheet I had kept for years, the one titled Family Debt. It had every loan, every bailed out credit card, every just help your sister payment. I stared at the numbers, at the years of my life converted into currency. Then I moved my cursor to the file and I hit delete. I slept through the night for the first time in my adult life. I felt light. The next week, my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello, there was a pause. Amelia. My blood went cold. Morgan. Her voice was nothing like the sharp, confident one I remembered. It was small, broken. I hope it's okay that I'm calling. I'm so sorry. Amelia, about everything. I had no idea about the forgery, about the loan. I swear I had no idea. I just listened, not sure what to say. That trip to Hawaii, she said, her voice cracking. The promotion, it was all a lie. Dad, he made it all up. He used that stolen money to keep up appearances. She let out a laugh that sounded more like a sob. My prestigious law firm, it's collapsing. A massive scandal. They're laying everyone off. I'm ruined. And there it was. The golden child, just as much a prisoner of the lie as I had been. I'm sorry to hear that. Morgan, I said, and I meant it. No, don't be. She whispered, I'm calling to say, I saw your app. It's incredible. You actually built something real, something that helps people. All these years, I was chasing prestige, and you were building a purpose. She was crying. Now, I'm proud of you. Amelia, I'm so proud of you. Tears pricked my own eyes. All those years of fighting, of wanting her to see me, and now here we were, two strangers on the phone, finally telling the truth. Thank you. Morgan. I said, that means a lot. We talked for a little while longer. It was awkward, but it was real. We hung up. I looked out my window at the code reflected in the glass, and I thought about all the people out there just like me. This is a letter to you, to the ones who always feel like you're on the fringe, the odd one out, the black sheep, the scapegoat, the one who never quite fit into the box your family built for you. Your worth is not determined by their approval. Your passion is not childish just because they don't understand it. You are not overreacting when you demand to be treated with respect. You are not a supporting character in someone else's story. You are the author of your own, Building a life you love is not an act of betrayal. It is your greatest responsibility. Be brave enough to write your own code.